So for the address, it's
Mm,
in Denver.
it's okay.
You want me to put that?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Does look like we're live on this end. So I'm going to wait a few minutes before we get kicked off officially and started, and people start seeing this broadcast whenever they do. So,
Great.
okay, awesome. So I've gotten the little reminder notification on my end. I'll go ahead and stop this scroll here and then kind of get us kicked off and started. And as folks start to tune in or start seeing this, whether you are engaging with us in the morning, afternoon, evening, whether it's on the weekend or we're no longer live, welcome to our broadcast and thank you for engaging with all of the ones that we've had to date. Of course, you can find many of them in the video section here on our Facebook page or YouTube channel where we are streaming this in real time right now. And of course, if you've not already done so and connected with us on all social media platforms, you can find us on Twitter at Westy Chamber. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Westminster Chamber of Commerce. I hesitate a little bit with Instagram because I pulled this. Actually, this is like a great time to tell you guys. If you are a business owner and your Instagram asks you for your date of birth, give them your actual date of birth and not your business date of birth. What ends up happening is that it'll flag it as like being too underage to operate a profile. And then you'll be in the place that we're in, which is locked out of our Instagram profile. So make sure that when you are alerted to do that, and I think a lot of people are getting into this kind of jail in Instagram, make sure that you read it thoroughly and that you're putting in information about yourself so that you're not locked out into the future. But you can find us on all other social media platforms. And hopefully when we regurgitate or resurgitate, whatever that word is, to get our Instagram profile back, you can find us on there too. So this leads me to our topic today. And of course, if you've never been on our broadcast before, then this is the quick how-tos. There is a comment section on this video for you to type in any questions or comments that come to mind. You can also follow along and maybe give us a hashtag replay later on if you have not been with us since the start and we may have missed you. If you don't feel comfortable asking a question or you may not have even a comment or a thought, if you react to the video with a thumbs up or any of those reactions, we can actually see who's on here with us. We love to give you some kudos for being on here and engaged with us and spending a portion of your day on this broadcast with us. If you are already following our page, make sure that you are liking it. And if you are liking the page, make sure you are following it. All of that goes hand in hand when we post information, and your ability to be notified when that information is posted in real time and all of that good stuff. So today is Wednesday, and that generally means that we are welcoming some newer folks into our network or welcoming back people into our network that have been a part of our organization in the past. So this broadcast is generally branded as a network welcome, and I'm very excited to have with me Krissy Watson. Krissy, thank you for being on here with me.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Love the chamber. So this is amazing.
Well, we have loved you. I've loved getting to know you in your various capacities over the years. And before we start dissecting that down and really giving people more of an image of you outside of just your professional role, I wanted to bring up here a couple of comments that I'm already seeing. One that's come to us from Parker Brown, who's giving a good morning message our way. We appreciate you, Parker, for tuning in and engaging. I feel like I should do like one of those, like, who has tuned in the most on our broadcast. And it would probably be Parker on all of them, like hands down, even during COVID. But we might do something like that. It'd be pretty fun. And then, of course, you probably recognize this name as well. Brian had given a quick good morning your way and mine. Krissy, thank you both for being on here with us and starting to engage. Krissy, I know you. I've had the privilege of getting to know you even more over the last few years. But let's give people a general sense of who is Krissy Watson.
Sure. So I am a Colorado native, and I feel like we are rare these days. I hear that all the time. Just me and my siblings, I guess, we're the only ones that are natives anymore. And I love Colorado. Outdoorsy, love being outside. I grew up in Niwot, so I was near the foothills area, Boulder, hiking, that sort of thing. I have a 10-year-old son, and he, of course, is the joy of my life and easily the best child in the world. And I also have a new puppy. She's 10 months old now, but she's a Corgi German Shepherd. So she's quite the interesting dog.
Yeah, that is an awesome mix. Congrats on the newer dog. Very excited because I don't think you've had one over the last couple of years. Yeah, so when we have our Mutts and Struts event in June, I hope that you are able to bring your kiddo and that new fur baby with you.
Yes, absolutely.
So exciting. And then your little one is also in the schools here in Westminster or the surrounding area.
Yes. Yeah. Here in Westminster, Ryan Elementary, which is an amazing school. We're so lucky to be there.
Yeah, I love that testimony. And I love just a quick glimpse. You are right. You guys are a rare breed now. I think the percentage I've heard even more recently is like a 20%. And I think that continues to go down as more and more people find this to be an amazing state to be moving to or kind of making their more permanent home. So you've moved around a little bit. Has that been in part because of personal choices? Has it been more because of work opportunities that you've had? And if it is the latter, can we start moving into that part of our conversation to kind of what have you been doing in your line of work over the years?
Absolutely. So I grew up in the Niwot area and then went to college at CSU in Fort Collins. And then it was a job opportunity that brought me back down this direction and have been in the Westminster Broomfield area pretty much ever since. I love this area and I don't think that I'll ever leave. I think it's amazing. The community is very strong and I really enjoy it. So originally for the past 17 years was in the hospitality industry. So I most recently had 5 hotel properties that I was in charge of sales management as well as a lot of revenue management for those properties. And it came to a point where I was looking for a little bit more of a work-life balance. And I knew someone within the industry, the mortgage industry, Jenna Swanson, and she's with Popish Mortgage. And that is what led me into this new role, which I've been in for almost a year now. And it has been incredible. A lot of what I did before translates to what I do now. But I would say the biggest difference is that I have more of an impact on people's lives. And that has made it so much more enjoyable. It doesn't feel like work. And I think that's a blessing when you are working, but it's fun.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. You so well put and so well said. There's a different level of fulfillment that comes from that when you know your impact is more than just kind of providing that service line of work, which you've done an excellent job even when you've been in hospitality. I think you've always brought in a personalization piece into the roles that you're doing. And it's always been more than just kind of the next sale for that hotel or one of those hotels that you always served. And so I think that translates and is probably a great skill set into what you're now doing. And we love Jenna out at Popish. Jenna's been a founding member of our organization since our inception nearly a decade ago, which is quite a shocker. I see a few more folks that have started to tune in with us. My mom, so thanks for hopping on, Mom. I also see Teresa. Thank you, Teresa, for engaging. And our current board chair, Brian Dice, is giving a quick good morning message our way. So thank you all for tuning in to the broadcast. We've got Krissy Watson giving us a quick rundown of who she is, what she's been up to and doing. And then we'll go into kind of some debunking of the myths around the work that she does. So now that you're in more of a job fulfillment role, you're in the line of kind of mortgage. What does that look like? What does a typical day look like for you? And past just a day, I'll expand it to a week, because sometimes our line of work enables us to be flexible with the different days of the week. So what does your week typically look like?
That is a good question. I would say week to week, it can be a little bit different depending on what I have going on. But typically, I'm talking to existing borrowers, whether we're in the loan process and that's been started, or we're in the pre-approval process. So going through those questions with them, and that's probably one of my favorite parts, is I do a lot of education and advising through the process. And there's people who have never purchased a home and don't understand the loan process at all. And then there's others who this is maybe their fifth or sixth home. Both of those are equally amazing to work with. So I'll be talking to clients. And a lot of what I do is work with my realtor partners. I have a lot of different realtor partners that know and trust me, and they send referrals my way. And so I engage with them on a weekly basis. A lot of networking, chamber events, luncheons, that sort of thing. But I would say the one difference between a mortgage lender and a realtor is that we can kind of shut off in the evening and on the weekends. So that's one thing that I'm really happy about and why I went this route. And so probably around 7 o'clock is when I tend to shut my computer down and have that family time.
Yeah. Well, and you went in an odd time, right? So it wasn't quite COVID wasn't quite done, and there was a
Mhm.
little bit of in between. And so you've transitioned into a different line of work in such a odd time when you look at the market as well and the demands that are there. So I feel like it's been like a perfect storm of learning experience, quick application and responses, and then trying to find that work-life balance on a continual basis. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
think that's always such an important thing to be able to be a part of. And a quick insert here, Krissy is actually also our young professionals chair for this year. And as that group continues to shape and take on different service projects and opportunities, you can see how that aligns with even her personal interest of making a larger impact more than just on herself. So Krissy, this is the fun part in conversation. Usually I turn to if folks have questions or if they have thoughts, and we didn't, rub anyone wrong by saying we love Colorado natives or CSU or any of, the dog breed that you had. No one had any comments or thoughts on that. So what I'll do, if you're okay with it, is kind of pepper you with a few questions. And we talked about this right before we went live. And you all just know, like our guests that are on this broadcast have no idea what I ask them. Like they are showing up and such great troopers, because I give them like, here's like what we'll probably talk about. And then we get on here and I'm like, okay, let's steer this conversation this way. And so they are honestly like speaking immediately in response to anything that I'm throwing their way or any questions that you guys might have. So if I'm asking something and you're like, oh, why hasn't Krissy answered in this way, or hasn't she brought this topic up, etc., that's what the comment section on this video is for. It's your time to engage with Krissy and with us, so that way we're asking her those questions that are of interest to you. So here's a quick myth or thought, and you can tell me if it's accurate. If it's not accurate, let's go into the why around that. And one of those is around a mortgage, that you need 20% down whenever you're accessing a mortgage for home buying. Is that is that still true? Does it still hold true until this day? Is it not true, and why is that?
It is not true. You do not have to have 20% down in order to purchase a home. You certainly can. You can put down, 20% plus if you want to. That does put you in a really good position for a loan type that's going to be a conventional loan, and you're generally going to get a better interest rate when you're in that position. However, there's lots of different programs. There's FHA loans where the minimum down is 3.5%. And then also with a conventional loan, you can do a minimum down of 3%. So what it does is it just changes the loan to value, and that's going to change your interest rate. So your credit score, loan to value kind of go hand in hand when we are pricing that loan.
So you don't necessarily, and this was actually the next one, you parlayed it perfectly, that you don't necessarily need a high credit score to get a home or to
That
get.
is correct. It helps. The higher your score is, the better your interest rate is going to be. So a lot of times I work with my borrowers if they're at maybe a 680, and I can run a simulator, a credit simulator with their information to determine what they could possibly do in the short term to get their credit score up, because that's going to get them better pricing, save them money in the long run. So that's something I work a lot with my borrowers. But minimum score is technically 580. With universal lending and Popish, we are usually around the 620 area. And that means that they're a less risky buyer. So the higher the score, the less risky the less risk there is for us as the lender.
And you kind of alluded to this earlier when you said that there are different types of mortgages and different types of options. So this mindset that some people might have of that 30-year fixed rates are the best option, that doesn't sound like it's necessarily the case for everyone.
That's absolutely true. There's 30-year, there's 15-year, there's 25-year. It depends on what the borrower wants to do, what their goals are. So that is going to be what I talk to my borrowers about first. Talk about what exactly is it that they're trying to accomplish and work through that process. And then determine from there which loan options make the most sense, save them the most money, fit their goals. So it's not just cut and dry. And that's why I, steer people away from going online and just going to a website to try to figure out what their loan could be. You really want to talk to someone who can advise you and look at your specific situation.
I feel like some people might be hesitant, right? And this actually is into another question that I quickly typed into you. Do you feel like some people might be hesitant to kind of go to you or any mortgage kind of lender because they feel like I'm locked into that particular person, especially if they get a pre-approval of some sort?
Mm-hmm. You're not locked in when you have the pre-approval. You do sign an intent to proceed so that I can connect you with my processor so we can start the ball rolling and make sure that we have the documents that we need, but you're not locked in. You can shop around, and I think that that's important. My borrowers need to know that they're getting the best service and that they're getting what's going to make the most sense for them. So I suggest that they look and see what else is out there and what works for them, essentially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This question comes to us from our audience, and generally when we have an audience question, then I usually try and frame it. Of course, this is coming to us during our Q&A period. So one of our myth debunctions may have sparked this from our guest, Brian, that's asking this question of you, Krissy. And Brian's question is, have you seen an impact in your business with the recent increase of nearly 2% in interest rates in a 6-month period?
To answer that question, yes, we have definitely seen an impact. One thing that I like to explain is that even though there has been an increase in interest rates, it's still historically low. We're nowhere near where we were in the 80s when we saw 18% interest rates. That was reality. And the low interest rates that we experienced in 2020 and 2021 were artificially low. So that was a tactic to help the economy, essentially, which it did. Those that participated in the lower interest rates, that was amazing. There was a lot of refinances going on during that time, so that was a good time. But now we're more getting back to normal rather than interest rates increasing too high. I think if we got into 8% or something around there, that would be pretty high, higher than the past maybe 15 years. But the other thing is, if you get locked in at a 5.5%, you can refinance that loan once interest rates go back down. So there's always an option. And if you want to get a home, the time to get a home is now, because home prices will continue to go up. Interest rates may go up, but they will also come down at some point.
Thank you so much for that question and that explanation, Krissy. Very much appreciate you both for asking and answering. Emilio, I see you on here with us. Thank you for tuning in and engaging. This question is a quick follow-up that I wanted to ask of one of the things that we talked about when we said you should go out and visit with a mortgage a representative or business before you kind of seek this. Is pre-qualification the same as pre-approval when it comes into mortgages?
They are not the same. A pre-qualification would be maybe a quick phone call, give me some basic information. What is your income? what's your estimated credit score, and then I can give you an estimate of what you can afford, essentially. A pre-approval, I would actually gather documents and look at income statements to determine what you actually qualify for and would run credit. We then take this information and run it through an automated underwriting system so that that pre-approval is valid. I can then give my client a pre-approval letter. They can give it to their realtor, and they can feel confident when they go shopping for a home that they will get the loan that they've told their realtor that they can get. So very different. A pre-approval is so important. You do not want to start talking to a realtor before you have that pre-approval. They will tell you to go talk to a lender.
They will. And I know this process because that's changed recently in how things are done. And everyone, I know that raises questions around kind of the why behind it. So this is a nice myth question that follows up onto what you were just sharing with when you said that you do pull credit and you're seeing what they're able to look at and which they can afford. So does it actually affect their credit when they do apply for a mortgage?
So anytime you pull your credit, there is going to be some sort of ramification. When you pull a mortgage credit, it's about a 2 to 3 point ding on your credit. So it's not huge. However, what's really neat is that there's a shopping window when you are shopping for a loan, for a mortgage specifically, and car loans. You have about 45 days that you can have your credit pulled from different lending companies, and you only get that ding one time. And I say 45 days because that's what they let us know. But if you can kind of keep it within maybe 20, 25 days, it's a lot easier. And you really only want to talk to 4 or 5 different lending companies before you get to where, okay, this is who I want to work with.
Do you think that sometimes people feel like banks are the best route and the only route that they can go for mortgages, or why they might feel like that is the best route as opposed to independent businesses like yourself?
I think sometimes banks feel comfortable because maybe they have their checking and savings account there and they maybe know some of the tellers. So they feel safe in that place. But there's a lot of differences to banks and lending companies like the one that I represent. And one of the biggest things is I work locally with my processor and I can get the job done a lot quicker. Larger banks typically have a processor that's maybe in Texas and you're trying to complete a loan that's in Colorado. And that can pose some difficulties during the loan process. I think the most important thing when you're going through a loan and you're under contract on that house and you're going through everything, we're gathering documents, is time. And if you don't get everything done in a timely manner, you can miss deadlines. Contracts can be pulled out from underneath you at that point. I've even gained some clients because they were working with larger banks that were not completing items on time. And I swooped in and got it done. And I think my fastest closing was 11 days. So
Wow.
it can happen. Mm-hmm.
For sure. Well, and I think part of it too is sometimes when people assume that just because a bank has numerous locations, and so that's why they can help them. And you all are also connected even outside of the state. And I know this because I've asked questions to support someone who was living outside of Colorado, and that was one thing that you all did. You leveraged partnerships and relationships or agents that you had all over. And so what might appear like it's limited to a service area could actually have a lot more of a greater impact once you really start digging deep or asking those questions of them.
Mm-hmm.
That is all I had in terms of questions for you that were rapid fire. You did an excellent job. Thank you for answering those. I told you that they should be in your wheelhouse. And they're generally things that people think of. Maybe it has been discouraging them from reaching out, from doing business, or from making that step of home ownership or taking that step forward for home ownership. So if folks are trying to reach out to you, Krissy, like a great email that they can touch base with you on.
So my email is kwatson@ulc.com.
Okay.
And then our website is www.popishmortgage.com. So Popish is a division of Universal Lending, and that's the branch that I belong to. And then I also have a Facebook where I post lots of information, answer questions, that sort of thing. And it's at 5280 Mortgage Krissy.
Awesome. Yeah, so those are some great ways that you can reach out to Krissy if you're tuned in. If you have questions later that you maybe had wanted to ask her or see this later and we're no longer live, you can always reach out to her. You can DM our page directly as well, and we're happy to get those answers for you, especially if you have a particular question that maybe applies to you on a personal level that you didn't want the rest of anyone else to know. You can do that, of course, in the privacy by directly reaching out to Krissy or our page. Again, we had Krissy Watson here with us. Krissy is with Popish Mortgage, a division of Universal Lending. She is a native here from Colorado, lives in the area, is a mama, a dog owner, a new dog owner, and has transitioned in this line of work over the last couple of years. She's also heavily involved, of course, with service organizations, including the Chamber, is one of our ambassadors, is also our leader of our young professional group, and is here to answer any questions for you around mortgage and those needs that you may have. So if you are already tuned in with us, then you know my quick ask, and that's to hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we were live, can also get a chance to meet Krissy, know a little bit more about her outside of just kind of the listing that you might see on our website or branding that you see elsewhere. If you haven't already done so, feel free to follow, like her page, comment, and engage with us on these videos. We will be back here on Monday with another Counselor Sarah Nirmela. We've had some patchy broadcasts, but it always is contingent on schedules and who I'm able to bring in when we can. But tune into our broadcasts on Mondays and Wednesdays, and stay tuned for upcoming programs and events that we have. There are plenty that are coming up in the month of June. We do not want you guys to miss out. With that, Krissy, we are actually done a few minutes before the 30-minute mark, so I'm giving you some free time to take a deep breath before you continue on with the rest of your day. But is there anything that I've left off that you wanted to share with folks?
I think my biggest piece of advice for those who want to get into a home is start talking to a lender early. You don't have to want to buy a house in the next 2 months. It can be a year from now, but get your ducks in a row, and there can be a lot of advice I can give throughout that process. So just go ahead and start early. Don't be afraid. And it's free to talk to me. It doesn't cost you anything. You can ask me whatever question you have. So I'm happy to help.
Plenty of people love that, right? Like free is
Yes.
like, that is the buzzword, especially when you are making that big decision of home buying. There are
Yes.
expenses along the way. And this is one of those that is a crucial part of the process and is at no cost to you. So take Krissy's advice to heart. And thank you again, Krissy. Thank you to all of you that are tuned in or tune in later on to engage with us on these broadcasts and videos. We have appreciated you from earlier on when we've had these the last couple of years.
Thank you, Juliet. This was
Yeah.
great.